Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hi, this is Richard Jacobs with Future Tech Podcast, and I have a guest named Hannes Sjoblad, founder of Bionyfiken, which he says means, bio-curious. How you doing, Hannes?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Yeah, this was the most difficult part, is pronouncing things, at least for me. But
your pronunciation is just fine, so...
Okay. Where do you hail from, by the way? What country?
So I live and work and hail from Sweden, although I have lived in many countries, including the US. But at the moment, I'm based here in Sweden.
Okay. And what do you do at Bionyfiken?
So Bionyfiken, we are a community for biohackers. And as biohackers, we explore new uses for technology and how it interacts with biology. And it's a lot of fun, and we learn a lot, and we are very hands-on. We hack stuff ourselves, and we're not satisfied with just talking. We love to try things out.
So what are some of the projects you guys are working on, or that you have great stories about?
Right. So we have, we have set up a community lab where anyone can come and join and use classic lab technology. So we do DNA analysis, some basic gene manipulation. We tell people how they can use this kind of equipment and inspire them to do interesting hacks. We work together with a network that is called lost it here.
It's okay.
Well, it's an international network. It's called iGEM. Sorry, let me rephrase. So we work a lot together with iGEM, which is an international competition for students who are working with digital biology and synthetic biology. So that's one thing we do. We also do a lot of workshops and talks, but perhaps what has gained us some notoriety is that we also host implant parties where we take chip implants and we inject ourselves with implants, and then we explore various ways to use them.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm in Austin, Texas, and there's a biohacking conference now every year, and they had a booth. They were implanting chips in your hand and stuff. So, yeah, tell me about what you guys do. What have you implanted, and what have people experienced with it?
Right. So, we're very practical about this. We saw those implants online that are from dangerous things, and the way we think about these things is that we don't just want to experiment, but we'd also know that when we do it together, we all learn more. So this is why instead of just going and get implanted individually, we said, let's do this as a group, and then we share the insights. So this is the background behind doing this as in implant party format.
That's smart.
And and it has helped because people bond a little bit over the experience, and they keep in touch and they share insights. Hey, look at this new app I found, etc. So, but what we do is, there are some mainstream user cases. For example, you can replace your various key badges that you would use for an office or a gym or similar, and you can just use your implant in the entrance. You also have the ability to replace or sort of any swipe card that is in your wallet. Let's say it's a library card or maybe a discount card in a shop or a membership thing for some club. All of these things we have replaced, and I think we're
really
helped by the fact that, yes, absolutely, that Sweden is a relatively high trust and open society. So when I walk up to the register in my gym and say, guys, can I try this implant instead of this card you forced me to carry around? They said, sure, that sounds cool. Let's try it.
Well, what if they want to see your...
in most places, perhaps.
What if they want to see your signature on the back of the card? What do you do then?
Exactly. This was a bit amusing. So the way it worked, I walked up to this girl in her track pants and in the register, and she said, yeah, cool, let's try it. And so we did, and then I said, great, now I can throw away my card. And she perhaps got a little bit second thoughts there and said, well, you always have to bring your card with you anyway. And I was like, yeah, right, like I'm going to do that. The whole point is to get rid of having to carry all those devices with me. Huh. So, I think when I swipe my hand, it shows a picture of me on their computer, so obviously it's me.
That's
and if
crazy.
Someone would hack my implant and copy it, they would be able to tell that it's not the same person. So I think that's pretty foolproof. Then, of course, there is beyond just using the existing infrastructure for touch-type identification. There is, of course, the dimension of using this as a login for your personal devices. So I use my implant to unlock my computer, to unlock my smartphone, instead of having PIN codes and passwords. This is very convenient and also a way for me that I don't have to remember these things. But if you have a little bit of imagination and you also are a friend of tinkering with hardware yourself, you can really stick these NFC readers into anything with a battery. For example, we modified a soft air gun so that we can lock and unlock it with a chip implant as a proof of how we can make guns safer.
Wow.
There's, for example, I have a friend, he made his own little medicine box. He doesn't want his kids to open it, so now he unlocks it with its chip implant. And it's quite easy. There are cheap NFC locks that you can buy for like $40, and you can take them apart and you can reuse these pieces for example, if you want to make your own electrical toothbrush, if you want to personalize it, you can lock it so it's only when the hand with the chip implant holds it.
Wow.
So you can tell we're serious nerds about these things.
So this is NFC, it's near field communication. That's the mechanism by which it communicates?
Exactly, to give some context for people who are not exactly into these things. So near field communication is the term. Near field communication is a protocol in which smart devices interact by way of very close touch. And I used to say that the fast-growing Internet of Things, it speaks a few languages. All the smart connected devices around us, most of the time they either speak Wi-Fi when they communicate with each other, or they speak Bluetooth if it's a bit shorter distance, or if it's for very close distances, they speak the language of NFC. So
tell me the ranges.
Just to come to the point. Yeah, the point is to. The idea is that by putting an implant in my hand, it gives my body the ability to speak the language of the Internet of Things. Sorry, your question.
Yeah, I apologize for interrupting. So what's the range of NFC versus Bluetooth versus Wi-Fi?
Right. So NFC is within half an inch or so. So it's very close touch. It depends a little bit on the size of the antenna. Perhaps with a bigger antenna that you may have in a credit card, it could be 1 or 2 inches. But with the implants we have, it's less than an inch. For Bluetooth, you can use that for, is it up to 10, 15 meters? It depends on if there's something in the way. and Wi-Fi, you have a somewhat bigger range, and it's also more powerful transmitters. So it depends on the distance. Also, Wi-Fi carries, of course, much more data, much faster than Bluetooth and NFC does.
All right, so tell me a little bit about this NFC implant. How big is it? How do you put it in? Where does it go? What does it feel like? All that.
So the implant is about the size of a large grain of rice. So it's 2 millimeters wide in diameter, and it's 12 millimeters long. So it's very tiny, and it sits inside an injection needle that you stick into the hand of your skin, and you just shoot the implant in. And it's a very quick procedure. It's not particularly painful, and it requires sort of no anesthetic or stitches or anything. It's about as quick as to make a hole in your ear, which a lot of people walk around with.
So what, all right, so you put it in, what happens to it in the body? Does the body reject it or push it out as it does with some implants, or what happens over time?
Now, the good thing with this type of chip implants is they are thoroughly tested on animals, because we have industrially chipped large animals since the early 1990s. So, the billions upon billions of horses, sheep, cats and dogs that have been chip implanted this way. So we know very well how these implants are treated and how they fare inside the body. And the chip itself is encased in a ceramic glass, which is biocompatible. It means that the body doesn't attack it. It mostly ignores the implant. There is a small buildup of biofilm on the outside, but it's not rejected by the body as such.
What if you want to take it out? Is it hard to get it out, or can it be extracted easily?
It's as easy to extract as it is to insert, fortunately. And this is what I keep telling my friends, that to get an implant is much easier and more risk-free than to get a tattoo, for example.
Wow.
Tattoos are pretty difficult to reserve. Anyone who's been 19 and gone on spring break and ended up with something they regretted, they have to carry it for a long time. But but a chip implant it's tiny. What you do is that you simply take a needle and you poke a little hole in the skin beside the implant, and then you pop it out, like you would do with a splinter in your hand, and then it's gone. So to me, this is it's safe, and it's reversible, and it's relatively. It is. I see no major risks or harms with having a chip implant.
And how is it powered? Is it powered by your body, or is it just it's only powered when it comes near another device, or how does it function?
Exactly. So these NFC chips are what we call passive chips. That means that they don't have any power source of its own. They have no battery. So the benefit with this is that they don't need to be charged. And the way it works is that they have a magnetic coil, which when you hold them close to a magnetic field of a certain frequency, the chip implant wakes up and transmits its information. So if I, for example, hold my phone close to my implant, it wakes up and says, hello, this is the information, and then it sort of goes back to sleep. So most of the time it's turned off unless you sort of hold it to a device which you want to use to read it.
Okay. And you mentioned...
This also has the benefit... just to comment. This also has the benefit when a lot of people ask me, oh, you have an implant, can you now be tracked? So do people know where you are? Are you not worried about Big Brother? I tell them, no, there is no risk at all that anyone can track me because of my implant, because it cannot transmit any signal. So if I get lost somewhere, the chip won't help, not more than an dental filling.
Gotcha. You mentioned other types of implants, that some are dangerous and some have other uses. What else have you seen besides this NFC device? What else is commonly implanted nowadays, or being experimentally done, and what can it do?
Right. So to clarify, my interest is in functional implants. I mean, the body mod community has been doing aesthetic implants for hundreds of years.
No, I mean functional ones, not like...
of course, just to clarify. So what I find exciting is functional implants. So there are some very interesting things happening, both sort of in the biohacker space as well as in industry. So in the biohacker space, I'm of course enthusiastic about magnetic implants, implants that give you a sense of perceiving magnetic fields. It's very neat. You can, for example, not just pick up needles and nails with your finger. You can also feel electrical wires, if they're connected or not, if you're a do-it-yourselfer. I have a good friend, his favorite use of his magnetic implant is that he feels the ATM, if it's going to give him cash or not. And he sort of feels that. It's not exactly life-changing, but he feels that in the force before someone else can feel it. So it's kind of a fun hack.
Really,
but what we can imagine is, then there are some fun. There are some interesting industrial type implants that are happening. There's, for example, a company by the name of Sensonics that last year released a chip implant for people with diabetes. As you are aware, people with diabetes often have to keep very close track of their blood sugar levels, so they have to stick a needle in their fingers up to 10 times a day. Yeah. Now with this implant, they just have to swipe the implant with the phone or with a reader to get a reading of their blood sugar level.
Really?
So no bloodshed. So I think that's amazing.
Which company is that has that device?
The company's name is Sensonics. I can send you a link if you want to edit something yourself into the talk.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
But, sure.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. Wow.
There are also chip implants, also initially developed for veterinarian use, but which are used by biohackers that can measure, for example, body temperature. What we see is a general trend in which sensors of all kind is, of course, getting smaller and they need less power. We can easily imagine that we can stick all the sensors in a Fitbit and fit them into an implant and stick them under our skin. And there are some very interesting advances in doing so. First of all, we know that people who wear fitness wearables, they get tired of them, so they stop wearing them for a reason or another, or they take them off from time to time because they, it doesn't look good with this dress, or for various reasons.
Right.
One of the main reasons I hear is that people think it's just another hassle in life, and for me, what we as biohackers try to solve is to make people's lives less cluttered. I want people to have fewer devices, not one more thing to worry about.
Right.
So you would have a better sort of continuous use of these implants, and also you wouldn't have to worry about aesthetics. But perhaps more importantly, if you're under the skin, you can get better data. You get access to different kinds of data under the skin, different quality. So, and what I envision here is really that if we can develop a cheap enough implant that can give you a good understanding of what is happening in the body,
this can be revolutionizing for healthcare access.
Yeah, it can.
I mean, if instead that you have to go to a hospital and wait and for a doctor to see you to take some tests, if you can just swipe yourself with your phone and you can get data and then you can send that to a person, especially imagine people who live in perhaps developing countries. Let's say you live in a village in India and the closest doctor may be a whole day's journey away. But if you just have a smartphone and you have a smart implant that you can check your fever or blood sugar and your blood levels, it would be a marvelous democratization of healthcare exchange, and I believe it can save millions of lives. So this is what sort of keeps me going in this dimension. This is a few years away, but we can technically see that we can do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. So I guess the idea would be an implantable device that can measure, let's say, the top 5
things that people would want to measure that could tell them about their condition, you know, like blood pressure, heart rate variability, blood sugar, maybe a few other things, but that would probably be the ideal device.
Exactly. So it could, of course, depend on some sensors are easier than others to implant, because if you have some kind of chemical or electrochemical sensors, what happens is they quite quickly get a biofilm buildup. But if you use, for example, mechanical sensors such as accelerometers that you can use to measure pulse and heart rate, it's it doesn't matter if you have a little bit of biofilm outside of the implant. There are some good people working on this, and I'm involved in a couple of projects to try to develop this kind of health implants, and I really think we can make a difference with these. Then I'd be happy to talk about some other interesting uses that we also see that are different from the health dimension, and that is to use implants as logins, as encrypted logins.
Okay.
And if we over time imagine that we replace these keys and cards that we carry in our pockets and wallets and handbags, and instead we just have sort of a personalized key in our hand, then we need to make them safer and smarter, and perhaps most importantly, we need to make them encrypted. Meaning that, let's say that whatever digital service I use, I log into a mail account, for example, if I do that encrypted, then all the data in which I access in that system is encrypted. And what this means is that I can decide who I want to share my data with, instead of the current situation, which is that I have no control whatsoever about the data that is shared when I'm active in the digital domain. I mean, if I visit the website, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of companies that log or purchase this information. So right. I think we need some kind of revolution here for us to take back the control of our own data. This has to happen. And this is sort of one of the challenges of our generation, to claw back some of that privacy.
Yeah, this sounds like some of the Bitcoin or blockchain applications. You know, if you kept your private key, for instance, on a chip in your hand. Actually, it's funny. If you had a Bitcoin wallet and the private key was stored on a device in your hand, that would be pretty cool. You have your own money literally with you, in you. That's amazing,
Yeah. Yes, and you can have, for example, you could even have two implants, one with your private and one with your public key, right? So the public key you would share whenever you share your contact details, you'd share your public key, and you have control over who has that access. So I think we will see some interesting advances in this field, and I think this is way overdue, because I think we are being treated unfairly by the big companies and big government, who are sort of just completely disregarding our integrity.
A quick question that's a little bit of a detour. What is the law surrounding implants? Implanting into someone else or doing it on yourself, I'm sure is fine, but do you have to be a doctor? What licensing is there required depending on the country?
So it depends from country to country, but generally I have done implants I've participated in implant events in 15 countries at least, in US and Mexico, all over Europe, even down in Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, and in general it is considered a non-medical intervention, because the implant doesn't have any medical properties. So it's comparable to piercings, for example, getting a hole in your ear. And this means that we can engage with the piercing community and body mod community to have these implant installations. And I find that is a great community to work with. I met a lot of super professional piercers over the last few years when I've toured the world, and it's always a pleasure to work with them. They have excellent control over doing a good sterile process and making sure that the implant is planned well without any harm. I've heard stories of people going to a veterinarian to get their implant. I would not recommend that. I mean, the veterinarians, they don't know that much about the human body. Or even to go to a medical doctor who doesn't normally make holes in people.
Right.
I think it's perfect to work with piercers.
Makes sense. Okay. So we were talking about some of the other applications. You said a friend of yours has a magnetic implant, and he can sense an ATM dispensing money. Can he sense the North Pole, for instance?
I'm glad you brought that up, because just today I had a conversation with the wonderful Livio Babic, who is one of the founders of Cyborg Nest, the company that does the NordSense implants. So NordSense is a implant that you connect to your breastbone, and it vibrates when you're facing north. So the idea of this little implant is, of course, to give your body a connection to Earth's magnetic fields, and giving you the ability to navigate, just like migratory birds, by perceiving the magnetic fields of our planet. And I think that's absolutely amazing. So those implants already exist, giving humans a new ability that we haven't had before. I think that's absolutely amazing.
And do you know anyone that's had multiple implants on different parts of their body so they could really get a sense of, let's say, magnetic fields or electrical fields or other stuff,
Yes.
not just one? And what was their experience?
I have some good friends who are hardcore implantees who have. I have friends who have 5 or 6 implants of various kinds. There can be an NFC. You can have. There's a couple of different frequencies depending on what kind of door readers you have around. You can have a temperature sensing, and yes, you can have these magnetic implants that sense either close magnetic fields or even the Earth magnetic fields. So, and what is interesting is that we are just in the beginning of what I see as a transformation of the human experience. Now, if we can use this smart technology that directly integrates with our senses, we can perceive new things, and we can really expand the sensory universe of Homo sapiens. And I think that's mind-blowing. I mean, we can perceive a planet, and there are some other well-known biohackers who have, for example, implants that can turn any signal into sound or vibration in their bodies, so that they can perceive earthquakes or even listen into the search for extraterrestrial intelligence data stream.
Really? That's what I was going to ask you, is tell me some more stories. Tell me about the earthquake one, and maybe a few others that are amazing. Sure.
There is a woman whom I highly admire. Her name is Moon Ribas. She has an implant in her arm that has a vibrating function, and she has connected this to the global system of seismographic sensors, which is what measures earthquakes all over the planet. So whenever there is an earthquake somewhere on the planet, she can perceive it. And if it's a big earthquake, of course, the higher the vibration. And I've heard and seen Moon perform in various instances. She's a professional dancer, and she stands still and then she moves when the implant tells her to move, so she can communicate in her dance what is happening on the planet. And isn't that quite amazing? So, and there is another gentleman. His name is Neil Harbison, who is a great cyborg advocate. And Neil, he's the man who has this implant in the back of his head, which turns a data stream into sound in his head.
Okay.
And so he can connect this to anything he likes, really. But for example, he told me that he uses this to listen to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence system. And as you may recall, some years back, we all did download screensavers.
Right.
And we would lend a little bit of our processing powers with our computers when they were idle to help process all this data coming in from outer space to see if we can find some extraterrestrial intelligence. But Neil is sort of lending not just his computer but his own wetware to see if maybe his brain can pick something up that all the computers cannot. So I think that is absolutely beautiful. That you can hear outer space.
That's crazy.
What's the limit in terms of expanding the human sensory universe in this way? Let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah, are there? Do you have any knowledge of implants where we can see infrared or ultraviolet or X-rays, gamma rays, anything like that? And I know it'd be more extensive to interface with the body on that level, but what's coming in the near future? What do you see that's shocking?
Well, the sense of sight is of course very interesting, since it's our sort of most important sensory input channel, eyesight. And today we have headsets and cameras that can film and translate infrared and ultraviolet into the visible spectrum for us. So, and if we look at sort of tech development in a bit broader sense, we see that devices have a trend to go from something that is as big as a room to something you can keep on a desktop, to something you can carry in your pocket, something you can carry on your arm, and then to something you can implant in your body. We see this happening, this rapid miniaturization of all kinds of devices. We've seen it with computers, we've seen it with cameras, we see it with microphones, we see it with music players, we see it with even larger equipment such as DNA sequencers, we see it with mass spectrometers. All these devices are rapidly shrinking. So if today, the military can have a infrared headset they put on your head, what will that look like in 10 or 20 years? Will it be as big, or will it be a contact lens? I can imagine that it will approach there.
That's true. This is the logical extension of miniaturization, to put something inside the body.
Yeah, and it's always there. And ultimately, I envision that these devices that we put in, they will be a bit like any other organ. So I have my kidneys, right? They sit there, they do their job, and maybe I have some other devices sitting under my skin that perform other tasks. And they are not, at the moment they are external, but over time they will be internal.
Yeah, and then internal things may actually become external too, or amplified by an external device, and back and forth. That's kind of interesting,
right. Yeah, I mean, if your kidneys don't work, you have to use this external dialysis machine, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's kind of funny, things are going inside, and then, we already have where we have to interface with the outside world, have dialysis, etc. So I guess in the future, there'll be this merging of our bodies with machines, or with the external world, through machines. And I guess that's what transhumanism, right? That's what they call it.
Yeah, I mean, this is already happening. So it's more an observation than a speculation. Millions of people already are alive today with smart technology in their bodies, and not just chip implants, but people with cochlear implants, pacemakers, insulin pumps, smart technology under their skins. And with the wave of miniaturization that we see, of course, there are a lot more things that we can input in ourselves. And for me, the reason for doing so is not just to get some freaky superpower things. I think that's often sort of the first half hour when you stumble upon the concept. You think, hey, yeah, I'm going to see in the dark and swim underwater. But ultimately, you come to think of deeper things, such as, can we make humans live a lot longer? Can we live healthier lives? Can we somehow improve our understanding of the world? For example, this idea of perceiving, how the planet is changing, how the atmosphere is changing, get a deeper understanding for what's going on in our bodies. And ultimately, I want to use technology this way to to make us make better decisions, to make us more informed, and to make us more balanced, and to perhaps make us more ethical beings. If we have a deeper understanding for the planet and for each other, would we not make wiser decisions then?
Makes sense.
I hope so.
I guess I have 2 questions left. Are there any devices that you can implant in yourself and in someone else where you can feel what that other person's feeling or sense it, or, allowing people to interact on a more visceral level? Anything like that?
Well, it's doable. People have already done this with prosthetics. Someone can remote control someone else's arm from around the world. It's only been done sort of in lab settings. So I don't see any of this in commercial use. There are wearables that can give you electrostimulation and that can induce certain movements. One of my favorites is this Pavlok device that you can use to get rid of unwanted behaviors. So it trains you the Pavlovian way by giving you electric shocks when you're doing things you're not supposed to do.
There.
And of course, these can be remotely controlled. But to answer your question, no, we are still not there in the sense that we can share experiences or remote control parts of each other with any precision.
Yeah, it's too bad. I'm not interested in controlling anyone else, but I've always wished to be able to literally feel what someone else is feeling, at least in some sense.
I mean, that would be amazing, I'm sure, and I imagine it would really. I mean, if there is a refugee that has gone through hell, what if that person could really share, the emotional dimensions of that, not just by telling words, but by replaying, the fear and the angst and the relief. I mean, maybe we would treat each other differently then. I think so. And but this is still in the future.
Okay. And then last question, maybe you've already said it, but what's some of the craziest stuff you've seen in the implant world that you just think is like nuts?
Well, maybe I have a different definition of crazy than the average person. Very few things that I find crazy. My normal reaction to new stuff is excitement and curiosity. But I think that the things that I have mentioned to you already, the ability to feel seismographic changes in the planets, the ability to connect yourself to, for example, data streams from satellites, are mind-blowing when you think of that this is just the beginning, that these things are made by enthusiasts on limited budgets.
Right.
What if we could do this? I mean, if the tech giants, and I know the tech giants are digging into these things, when they get into the game with enormous research budgets and market capabilities, I think we will see these ideas expand into the mainstream very quickly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Hannes. So, last question is, how can listeners, connect with you or your biohacking co-op and, learn more about what's going on and interface with you?
Right. So please find me on Twitter at HSJOB. I'm also on Facebook and a number of other platforms. I'm very happy to chat with people who have interesting projects going on. We also host events from time to time. We're hosting a big biohacker summit in Stockholm in mid-May, where we're inviting fantastic speakers from all over the world, not just doing chip implants. There's, for example, a fantastic lady from Harvard. She does smart fingernails and with her smart fingernails, she can play the piano just by moving her fingers in the air. Her name is Katja Vega, and she's absolutely amazing. As well as other dimensions of biohacking, including health hacking, nutrition, sports, and fitness dimensions of biohacking, which is also very important for us. So yeah, please get in touch or just join one of the many Facebook groups for biohackers out there. I think that's an easy way to connect and just learn from the community.
Okay, well, very good. Johannes, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.